Elizabeth Warren spoke at an AFL-CIO event, and she eviscerated trickle-down economics in about a minute.
Trickle-down policies are actually pretty simple. First, fire the cops. Not the cops on Main Street, the cops on Wall Street. Pretty much the whole Republican Party, and if we're going to be honest, too many Democrats, have talked about the evils of big government and called for deregulation. And it all sounded good. But what it was really about was tying the hands of regulators and turning loose big banks and giant international corporations to do whatever they wanted to do. Turning them loose to rig the market and reduce competition. Turning them loose to outsource more jobs. Turning them loose to load up on more risks and then hide behind taxpayer guarantees. Turning them loose to sell more mortgages and more credit cards that cheated American families. In short, turning them loose to do whatever juiced short-term profits, even if it came at the expense of working families.
Look out. Now, as I was watching that speech, it occurred to me that the media and the establishment, they're going to do everything in their power to not pay attention and not cover Elizabeth Warren. Because she is the perfect candidate to really bring America back to an FDR-style system, a more social democratic-like system. And the banks do not want that. The elite do not want that. The establishment do not want that. The politicians do not want that. So you mark my words, if/when Elizabeth Warren runs for president, they're going to either dismiss her, talking about the media here, or they're going to Ron Paul her. So either out of hand they just say, not a serious candidate, or they'll just gloss over her when talking about other Democratic candidates, and also, Elizabeth Warren, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, so Hillary Clinton, such a super serious candidate, and everybody's ready for Hillary. Let's talk more about Hillary. This is what's going to happen because she scares the establishment too much. We covered a story on the Fox show Outnumbered. One of the hosts spoke about how she had a conversation with Wall Street bankers, and they said, no, they think Elizabeth Warren is the devil. They think she's actually the devil. They're scared, man, and why are they scared? They're scared because they realize the party's going to be over if she gets in power. They realize that she's going to raise their taxes. She's going to make sure that they don't get a blank check for bailouts. She's going to make sure that they don't over-leverage. She's going to make sure that they don't basically do fraud to get rich, like Goldman Sachs did, for example. So Elizabeth Warren, man, it would be fantastic if she ran and if she won. But also, everything she's saying there is correct from a historical perspective, from a factual perspective. This idea that trickle-down ever worked, we know it's not true. We had trickle-down economics, or Reaganomics is another way of calling it, or voodoo economics also. George H.W. Bush used to call it that when in conversation with Reagan. It never worked, and we know because in the 1910s and the 19-teens in America, it was implemented. And what happened? It led to the crash, the stock market crash, and the Great Depression. Every time you deregulate, every time you cut taxes specifically for the rich and deregulate, what happens? Boom, bust cycles. You have monopoly money created. You have speculative bubbles. You'll see the economy take off, and then it will plummet and crash. We saw the same thing happen in the 1920s, leading to the Great Depression in 1929. We saw the exact same thing happen in the Reagan years. When Reagan left office, we had a significant recession. And then we saw the same thing happen in the Bush years. And also, by the way, you have to mention Clinton, because under Clinton, it was when Glass-Steagall was repealed, which was a horrible thing. He also did a fairly significant amount of deregulation. So because of Bush and because of Clinton, they did trickle down, they deregulated, they did Reaganomics, and what happened? another boom-bust cycle. You had the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. The only time we had a stable system was when? After the New Deal was put into place, after we regulated Wall Street. What is it? We went 50 years or so without a banking crash? I mean, it should be obvious to people. Another good piece of evidence for this is Canada. During the Great Recession in America, Canada got away largely unscathed. The social democracies got away largely unscathed. Why? Because they didn't go crazy and deregulate the bankers and Wall Street and let them do whatever the fuck they wanted. They made sure to efficiently regulate their economies. They made sure not to just cut taxes for the rich, and then they were better off as a result of it. But in America, we never learn our lessons because of the corrupting influence of money in politics and because of how aggressive the right-wingers are with their pseudo-religious ideology of Reaganomics.